Welcome to Unwind Stories. If you enjoy cozy mysteries, don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow along for more. This is part 2 of the Culinary Capers mystery series. If you haven't listened to The Secret Ingredient yet, you may want to start there. But don't worry, each story stands on its own. The sun had barely risen over Seabreeze when Lila Thompson found herself back at Lila's table, her bistro already alive with the scent of fresh bread and the soft murmur of the first morning customers. The town's annual Culinary Festival was now in full swing, and the air buzzed with excitement. Yet Lila couldn't shake the uneasy feeling settling in her stomach. Anton Delgado, one of the festival's biggest competitors, had mysteriously collapsed the day before. Though he was expected to make a full recovery, something about the incident didn't sit right with her. She had seen Celia Navarro, the festival's newest entrant, hovering near Anton's tent before his collapse. But was that enough to suspect foul play? As she placed a basket of warm pastries on the counter, the chime of the front door announced the arrival of her best friend, Martha Jenkins. Martha had been Lila's closest confidant since childhood, their friendship built over countless cups of coffee and shared secrets. While Lila worked magic in the kitchen, Martha thrived among the pages of her bookshop, their different passions intertwining in a way that made their bond unbreakable. The owner of Seabreeze Reed strode in, holding a small folded piece of paper in her hand. "Morning, Lila," Martha said, slipping onto a stool at the counter. "You're not going to believe what I found." Lila wiped her hands on a towel, raising a curious brow. "Please tell me it's good news." Martha smoothed out the paper and placed it between them. It was a note, scrawled hastily in ink. It wasn't an accident. He was meant to lose. Lila's breath hitched. "Where did you get this?" "Tucked into a cookbook someone donated to the shop." A chill ran down Lila's spine. "Do you think it's about Anton?" Martha nodded. "Someone in this town knows more than they're saying." Lila exhaled and leaned against the counter. This whole thing is starting to feel bigger than just an accident. The front door swung open again, and Detective Mark Reynolds walked in, looking exhausted but alert. He gave them a nod before heading toward the counter. "Morning, ladies." He took a seat beside Martha and gestured for coffee, which Lila poured without a word. "Anton woke up last night." Lila set the coffee pot down, gripping the counter. "Is he okay?" Mark exhaled. "Physically, yes, but he doesn't remember much." Martha slid the note toward him. "And what do you make of this?" Mark read it carefully, his frown deepening. "Where did you find this?" "In a cookbook at my shop," Martha said. "It could be unrelated, but it's a strange coincidence," Mark finished. "I'll pass it along." Lila wiped her hands on a towel, her mind racing. "I don't like this, Mark. If someone meant for Anton to lose, what else are they willing to do?" Mark took a slow sip of his coffee. "That's what we need to figure out." Martha tapped a finger against the counter. "Lila, you mentioned Celia yesterday, that she seemed off." Lila nodded. "I was going to talk to her today." Martha tilted her head. "What do we really know about her?" Lila sighed. "Not much, honestly. She's new in town, entered the festival at the last minute." Martha leaned forward. "It just doesn't make sense. Usually, chefs competing at this level have some sort of reputation. They don't just appear out of nowhere." Lila frowned, the thought gnawing at her. "I still want to talk to her." Later that afternoon, Lila and Martha headed toward the festival grounds, where Celia was at her booth, adjusting trays of pastries for the next round of judging. As they approached, they noticed Mark was already there, speaking to her in a low voice. "Looks like we weren't the only ones eager to chat," Martha muttered. Lila folded her arms and waited for Mark to finish. Celia looked up as she noticed them, her expression wary but composed. "Morning," Lila greeted, keeping her tone neutral. "I wanted to introduce myself properly. I'm Lila, owner of Lila's Table." Celia wiped her hands on her apron, nodding. "I've heard about you. Your pastries are famous around here?" Lila smiled. Thanks. You're new to the festival, right? What made you decide to enter? Celia hesitated, then shrugged. I thought it'd be a good opportunity. Martha crossed her arms. Where were you before coming to Seabreeze? Celia's eyes flickered just for a moment. I traveled around a bit. No permanent place. Lila exchanged a glance with Martha. That was an unusual answer. Mark cleared his throat. Celia, Anton Delgado had an incident yesterday. He believes someone tampered with his food. Celia's brows furrowed. That's terrible, but what does that have to do with me? Lila watched her carefully. You were near his tent before he collapsed. Celia's eyes darted between them before she exhaled sharply. All right, look, I don't know what happened to Anton, but I can tell you this. I wasn't the only one hanging around his tent yesterday, and I have no reason to sabotage him. Martha raised a brow. Who else was there? Celia hesitated before saying, a few others. Vendors, contestants, people come and go all the time at these events. Mark's gaze remained steady. Then why does it seem like you have something to hide? Celia's lips pressed into a thin line before she finally said, because I do. But it has nothing to do with Anton. Lila exchanged a look with Mark. The mystery had just deepened, and they were only getting started. Thanks for listening to Unwind Stories. If you enjoyed this cozy mystery, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Stay tuned for the next installment of Culinary Capers.